They were with us every day during the election, and they're with us today. Jessica, Kim, Christy, please stand up and let us all thank you. We will never let you down.
So we're back speaking with Kimberly Corban, as she has now changed her last name too. I hope that's I hope that's not like a last name that you inherited by way of marriage, because then I'm pretty sure I just pissed somebody off.
Just my dad.
Okay. Well, then again, let me.
It's not getting better. We're just
yeah. I'm known for doing that. I have all types of shovels underneath this table, and I just choose when to start digging. Yeah. So before we threw it to break, I was asking you about some of the responses from. I always have a problem categorizing this because I'm not going to assume all victim groups are leftist in nature, but it is. I guess it is what it is to a certain extent. But when you started coming out more pro-gun, what was that pushback like? And where do you think, and what do you think largely was the basis for it? Because you pointed out something before we went to break that I absolutely agree with. I think when we have this conversation, a lot of times it becomes very vitriol. It's incredibly divisive in many ways, and I think sometimes we miss the forest for the trees and understanding that there's an aspect to this where we do all inevitably have the same common goal. We just may differ in terms of how we go about getting there, and having that conversation without kind of yelling and screaming at each other sometimes would be more advantageous than anything else. So, but what has been kind of your experience in this unnecessarily, unbelievably long question with respect to coming out more on the pro-gun side in terms of your relationship with some of the other groups that you dealt with initially?
So you may have to redirect me if I don't address all of the points.
No, you're fine.
I mean, I don't know. It's this weird place where I was embraced and had such a great experience sharing my story, feeling like the victim advocacy community, especially in Colorado, was 100% behind me. And then when I started speaking out and having an opinion that maybe went against the grain or that victims typically shy away from, it was like, ooh, well, you're a good victim, but you're not the right kind of victim. So we're gonna find somebody else maybe. And at first it hurt. It was, but okay, well, I still have the same story and these same things. It's just this is what I do for myself, and I want to promote that option. Not that people should have guns, because, I mean, you and I both know the NRA, especially on this side, and really anybody that loves the Constitution, doesn't want guns in the hands of everyone. Yeah. Yes, we want legal citizens to have these arms if they choose. That's what this is all about, is having choice. And I don't understand why liberals have such a problem with this, because everything else, well, really it's one thing, because you go anywhere else and then the choice is, well, right. This choice is your choice. So I think once I broke that mold and I wasn't that perfect victim anymore, it really became divisive, and it doesn't need to be. I didn't get asked to as many campuses. I think was a big change. But then this year, I hooked up with a group called Turning Point USA. If you've not heard of these guys, they're amazing. Mm-hmm. But they've got chapters on different campuses across the country, and that story really resonated with a lot of them at some of their events that they'd heard. So I started getting out to campuses across the country this year, and that feels to me like home. That's where I have always done this speech, because that's the population most at risk for sexual assault. And I don't just speak on stranger assaults and reporting. This is what happens if you know this person. This is what happens if you report to campus police. If you don't, if you just want to seek medical attention. So it's this wide range of things that you learn about while I'm speaking. But it doesn't matter how you vote, who you love, where you go to school, if you go to school, what your economic background is. Nobody looks for those boxes to check when they decide to sexually assault you. It's something that affects everybody.
I think one of the biggest things I've taken away from your journey, in your progress in the direction you've gone in terms of kind of embracing the firearm and the Second Amendment, one of my biggest critiques of some of those groups is I feel a lot of the things that they do is more or less symbolic. And the one thing that I've noticed about, I've read your story a couple of times, I've heard you speak. It's not even really so much about the gun.
No.
It's the idea of you becoming empowered and just choosing the gun as one of those tools that you use to do that in the real world, not symbolically, but for real, And
Exactly.
yeah, and I think that does wonders from an emotional standpoint and a psychological standpoint for someone who's gone through something that you've gone through. And it bothers me when all of a sudden you can become more or less ostracized from the idea of using you as an example of protecting individuals who become victimized, because you've decided to do something very concrete and real, whether it was with a gun, whether maybe it was with a knife or some other weapon. Let's say you just took up self-defense altogether. And so it's just interesting to me in that regard, in trying to understand the mentality on the other side, because we all, like you said, like no one in NRA wants criminals to have guns. We don't want people we don't believe shouldn't have guns to have guns like that. That's just a given. Sure, we disagree about how we go about making sure that it doesn't happen. And you get someone like you, like, why couldn't they just stand on the whole notion of this is somebody who's decided to empower herself? She chose a gun as a form of doing that. You don't have to choose a gun. You can choose whatever you'd like. But this is an example of somebody who went through a traumatic experience and was able to pull herself from that traumatic experience and make herself stronger. And I think that should be the entire crux of your story. And then just to kind of, like I say, more or less ostracize you as a result of the tool you utilize to gain that strength. I'm not gonna say use the gun to gain your strength, but that's a part of the process in which you were able to do that. I don't know. It bothers me.
It doesn't come from the gun.
Huh?
Yeah. Well, and it should. I mean, nobody wants to talk about this. Rape is scary.
Yeah.
Putting yourself in my shoes is scary. Thinking that it's your daughter, your sister, your wife, your girlfriend, that's scary. But even worse is having to live with that and having the memories that I have, that so many other survivors have. And just because I took that step and made something concrete about the right to protect myself, that shouldn't mean that suddenly I am somehow to blame, or that I'm worse off that way. That's not it at all. This is something that can be done to protect myself, and there's every reason for me to go ahead and take that. I have to say, though, I didn't start carrying when I first had a firearm around. I had to make sure I was really comfortable with it. And so I think we hear so much about, oh, well, you're just going to buy it online and go pick it up and start toting it around. Yeah. Well, that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. No, it's a very, very personal task. And you have this incredible amount of accountability that comes with owning, with carrying a firearm. And there's every reason for you to get that trained, to make sure that it's something that you're comfortable with, because safety is multi-layered. It's not just a gun. It's doing a whole lot of things. And at the end of the day, if an attacker gets through all of those, your gun is going to be your one equalizing factor. And I'm not going to play my cards and just hope that I've got a good hand. I want to make sure that I've got something even better there.
And see, that's, to me, is an incredible message. If we're talking about groups who say we're not against the idea of firearm ownership, we're just for gun safety. I don't think of a better message than somebody who's been victimized, decided to empower themselves, and has now gone through the requisite processes to carry a firearm and do so responsibly, and to have them come out and say, look, this is what I did to empower myself, and this is how I went about doing it responsibly. I think that speaks volumes in terms of what we all want to happen in this country with respect to firearms. And so it baffles me in a lot of ways. It doesn't really baffle me. I know the underlying reasons behind it. But, it's still, like I said, it's still frustrating just to kind of see it be played out in the way that it has. Now, with respect to firearms, do you have a gun preference?
Loaded? Already hard. Sorry. I prefer my puns intended. Actually, I have a few that I like. I still have yet to find that one that I just can't live without.
Yeah.
And over the summer, I have some really intense training classes coming up that I'm super excited about.
Gotcha.
It. I can't go into a whole lot of detail yet, but I'm going to be out at the SIG Academy for
Awesome.
a good chunk of time this coming summer. So I'll be learning a little bit more about the things that I already know, but I want to continuously improve upon not only my safety, but the safety of my kids, around everybody around me. I want to continue learning, and for them to have me out and for me to be able to do that, I am super excited. So I'll get to talk more about that later. But I really liked some of the 9mm feel. I have a 380 right now. And the kick is a little tough on it. I've actually found I'm most accurate with a Glock, but I don't carry that on a day-to-day basis because of the age of my kids. I want that manual safety.
Gotcha.
They're 2 and 3, so I want to be able to have just a little bit extra on the manual safety side of things with a heavier trigger pull.
It's funny you point that out, and in the gun world of egos. There's this kind of pervasive notion, this pervasive hatred for anything that has a manual safety on it. And I tell people, like, well, calm down. Like, of course, I generally don't want safeties on my guns, but I don't have kids. I have different things that I don't have to account for that maybe somebody else might have to account for. And like you just pointed out, I want a manual safety because I do have kids. I want to provide as many steps and layers as possible that if unfortunately they get their hands on that gun, it makes it incredibly even more hard for them to shoot accidentally. And I just wanted to use your point to kind of stand on my soapbox to point that out.
Getting on your soapbox is your cardio?
Yeah, well, so really? So you think I do cardio like this? Is that what I do? I'll be on the elliptical?
I was not the elliptical motion. I don't know.
I'm not gonna lie. I did it for a little bit. And then.
Are there pictures of this?
Huh?
Are there pictures of this?
Hell no. Nope, no pictures. God. No pictures at all. No pictures at all. Oh man, so I'm going to end this conversation before I get into more trouble. No, but I really do appreciate you taking the time to tell us your story and talk about your journey going forward. I know it's never easy, but I do absolutely admire you and everything that you've been able to do thus far.
Well, thank you very much, and it's always a pleasure to be on and be able to share my platform with others and just give voice to victims that haven't found theirs yet. So I have a website, totally made it myself. It's KimberlyCorban.com. You can learn a little bit more there, and I do speaking events. So that's the little request button, and then follow me on Twitter for more snark. I speak fluent snarkasm.
And again, it's Kimberly Corban, not Corban.
I mean, whatever, live your dream.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yep.
No, thank you so much, Kimberly.
Yeah, thank you. We'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. All right, when we come back, we'll talk with NRA's Josh Powell about their new pro hunting initiative.